Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome one and all to yet another podcast. My goodness, this is number 4 and episode 4 in our first season. Very proud to have with me, of course, my rhythm pal, Valerie Merrill, learning and development specialist du jour, and of course, our special guest today, Rhonda L. Bowen, founder of the Midwives Alliance.
Thank you so
Incredible person. We had a lovely conversation, going back a short while. And today we're actually going to present it. Now, the way the format runs today, we're going to have a very brief just chat. I'm going to check in with you, Rhonda, in a second. And then what we're going to do is roll VT and play the recording we made. And afterwards, hopefully, if someone might make a comment, might not, but I encourage all of you to take notice. Rhonda, since we made that recording, has anything fundamentally changed in the outlook or the way in which the market is spread right now?
I would just say the thing I noticed is that now AI is a negotiation partner.
Is it always worrying when you're negotiating with someone who doesn't actually have any feelings?
Yeah.
Does that not change the landscape?
Dynamic, yeah.
Well, I sent a contract to someone who wanted to work with me, and they wrote back to me and sent me some things, and I said, oh, well, let me just check. And I put this back into AI, who would help me write the contract. And then it said, oh, well, if that's going to be in there, then you need to upgrade this part and check on this. And don't forget about that. And I went through, my husband studied law. We looked at the whole thing together then as well. And we put everything back into the contract and sent it back to the other party. And I'm waiting for the answer now. But I have a new cohort in crime, if you will, in negotiation with using my AI.
Goodness. Well, before we get into that and the fact that I actually named my AI, mine's called Colin, what we're going to do is jump into the session. One chance negotiation. And I would say this is a humdinger, so do watch out. Until the other side. Roll VT. Welcome, bienvenue. Welcome once again to another Portfolio Executive Podcast. Yes, my goodness, we are racking them up. And of course, in the virtual studio, I have my dear cunning companion, Valerie Merrill. And of course, today's special guest, Rhonda L. Bowen, entrepreneur, global strategist, communications guide. Amazing. Many, many strings to that bow. Today's topic is one I think you'll find of interest. So actually, I'm going to pass it over. Valerie, what is today's topic?
Today's topic is one that's very close to Rhonda's heart, which is a one-chance negotiation. So we're going to talk about what is a one-chance negotiation, and of the many, probably 750 plus people that Rhonda has trained on one-chance negotiation.
Wow. So this not being your first rodeo, Rhonda, let's get into it. I'm just going to switch the screen out and we can get talking as we do. Right. So let's get that in place. Okay. So one chance negotiation. I suppose the most important question is what the hell is a one chance negotiation, Rhonda?
Well, it's my term for something that I've had the privilege of doing, as Valerie mentioned already, with over 750 scientists worldwide. And it's the idea of when you put people who are into research and development and scientific development of chemicals, and you ask them to go and talk to a government official in a country anywhere in the world who is going to decide if their new product is being approved for sale in that country or in that region, if it's something like the European Union, then those people have to learn to negotiate in a way that's very, very different from probably what most of us think about negotiation, like buying a new house or buying a new car. And, you know, if you go to a car dealership and the guy there isn't your type, or he doesn't have exactly the right color car you want, you go out, you go down the street, there's another car dealer, you can go in and you can negotiate and get the car you want. That's not the case when you negotiate with a government. There is one government, there is one panel you have to talk to. And in the end, if they decide yes, you get to sell your product and make millions in that country. And if they decide no, you make nothing. So you have one chance to get it right. And if you don't, that's a huge blow to you personally, probably, but also to your company, and 2, options for the company to make income in the millions that then no longer is happening.
So you only get one go. That's it. It's a one chance shootout, and you're done.
Yes, because there's only one government in that country you can talk to. You can't go down the street and say, oh, well, there's another capital somewhere and there's another board of people who I could speak to. Is this board that decides your fate as the company and whether your product gets sold or not?
Is that something that you ever come across in your line of work?
No, because it's very different from the commercial system and scenarios. I mean, when we were talking about this earlier, we talked about the fact that actually you're not necessarily in the room with anybody. You're not meeting people in that sense. So how then, Rhonda, do you prepare people for negotiations where, you're not in the room? It's just so different.
Well, there are various stages of what happens with this. There are very strict guidelines about how new products can be approved in each country. And so there's lots of going back and forth at the beginning with sending guidelines and then submitting dossiers, which are sometimes thousands of pages. And so there's a lot of things happening that are, if you will, paperwork and emails and those kind of things going on. But of course, if there's something that really needs to be discussed, then people actually do get on an airplane and fly to wherever when it needs to be done. And that's usually the case because their important thing is that there's not just the country officials and the people from the company, but there's often, maybe they're not in the room, but they're sort of playing a role. Is there an election coming up? Is Greenpeace on your back? Are the farmers in the country who would benefit from these products, are they really angry because you're not doing this fast enough as the government? There are lots and lots of parameters that are happening, but none of them are what you would normally think of with sales. There are no prices. There's no delivery times. There's no discounts. There's none of those things that we all normally think of when we think of negotiation. But as I said, the outcomes are much more terrible if people in the end don't get the chance to have their products sold in the country. And therefore, it isn't just trying to figure out, well, if I give them an extra 10%, then they'll say yes.
Right.
Work in this kind of a negotiation.
So it's not usually money that's really the thing here, is it? It's what really is at risk.
Well, what's at risk is whether the government says the new product that the company is saying, this is what we should be selling in your country, if they think it's safe, if they think it is beneficial, if they think someone like Greenpeace will say, no, if that gets into the groundwater, then we're going to have trouble. All these kinds of very much environmental things, because this is a chemical, obviously, which has something to do with it. But this could be anybody talking to a government. If you want to build a new house and there are zoning ordinances and you want to do something that's not in the zoning ordinance, it's the same kind of problem. What do you actually say to that person to get them to the point where they can say, yes, that would be something that we can agree to, or not?
Right. But what is the real currency in this?
The real currency is, do you get your product on the market? Yes or no?
Oh, wow.
And what we've got here, I think, Gareth, is Rhonda saying that really we're bridging the technical expertise and scientific knowledge with or aiming with her scenarios and the way that she maps and trains people to deliver executive level influence.
Yes.
Is that correct? So what is one chance negotiation? So how do you give that mind shift or develop that mindset shift in scientists or in anybody really, because it is a product?
Well, for 17 years, I was active in this company, and we always had groups of 12 people coming to the training. There were 3 of us actually training in the room as well, not just myself. And the important thing was that we did everything from a very practical, hands-on experimental system. So there was no training up front. There was, here's a case study. You're in 3 teams of 4. Each team prepares. We sit down, we try the negotiation, we debrief, we watch a video, we give feedback. And at the end of the day, Then I gave people the theory that would help them do better for the next day. So it was actually sitting down and doing it. Many of the people in these courses had been in the company for years, and this was for
Right.
them owning what they were doing. There were also sometimes people in the company who'd only been in the company for 6 months and had never done this at all. We had great mixes of people, and that was important because when you go to the authority, you also don't know who's been there for 20 years and who has just come in. So you have to have a wide
Right.
range of people.
Right. So
Yeah.
I tell you what, look, this leads me to ask you a question.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of sort of a one chance moment that you faced with a government body, and give me a sort of an idea of what was really at risk?
Okay. Let me give you one, first of all, that is the thing that would throw people off most. I was working with these people, and one of them mentioned a time when they went in to have this discussion about a product that is taking care of crops in a field. All right. So it was a fertilizer. They walked in the room. This company is a name you would know. This company makes not only products for plants, this company also makes products for people. There had been some kind of a scandal in the news about a human medicine product that was seeming to be difficult and maybe could kill people. And you know what happens with the media. And the team walked into the room to talk to this person, and the person looked at him and said, "My brother-in-law takes that product from your company. Is he going to die?"
Wow, that's a great negotiation starting point.
And of course, this team had nothing to do with the human medicine
Yeah,
product,
of course not.
but they all work for the same company.
Right.
And it took them 20 minutes to quiet the person down and to make the promise that they would go back and check with their colleagues in the human medicine, have them get in touch so that he would be able to talk to a person. But of course, they were there to talk about their product, which is for plants. It had nothing to do with this, but if you don't get people in the right mindset from the beginning, and if there's something else that's going on, I mentioned the farmers having some kind of an uprising, the
Yes.
election coming up, the
Yeah.
Greenpeace people, there are so many things that can take out your mindset before you actually even get started, or they're like a shadow in the back of your mind all the time about what's going to happen if the other party gets elected next year. I don't have a job.
Well, yeah, they have to face
Things.
that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, how do you handle negotiations where third party like Greenpeace are
Yeah.
involved?
Yeah. Well, they're never in the room, and that's the worst part of it.
Right.
Because when the people go, it's only the people from the company and the people from the government authority. There's nobody else in the room. I was also never allowed to be in the room ever. Yeah. Although I heard all the stories over 17 years of all the things that happened.
I bet
But
you did.
But the interesting thing, of course, is that when Greenpeace has said we are going to have a demonstration, and you know how Greenpeace does that, and that's very, very prominent in the media. What is that doing to the reputation of the whole government? What is the president of the country going to come and tell you if you can't handle things with Greenpeace? So there are lots and lots of levels and lots of distinctions that have to be made in this process. And it sounds so easy because the word one is at the beginning, but the one chance, if you don't get it right, then the whole
Yes.
thing falls apart. And as I said, if you can't sell your product in that country because they say, we don't trust you, the risk is too high, you can't prove to us that this product is safe,
Right.
then it doesn't get sold. That's all there is to it. And if there's too much pressure from Greenpeace, it won't get sold.
Wow.
Um,
This is so beyond my normal day-to-day
yeah.
work. I do a lot of negotiation work, either for myself or on behalf of clients, but it's always been a lot of dancing around each other because, with the undertow of there are other places I could go, right?
Yes.
We don't have that here. So it kind of sets a weird precedent. Can you tell me of a couple of mistakes that you've seen, probably glaring mistakes you've
Mhm.
seen, maybe as a forewarning or forearming that we could do here?
Yeah. And this could be for anybody. You don't have to be a scientist talking to a government. The reason this program started in the first place was that a major organization did a survey of all different kinds of chemical companies and how they interact with authorities. And when things came back, there were statements made by authority people like, Well, this company, the people just come in and say, we know more about this than you do, so just go ahead and approve everything.
Whoa.
And that was one of the reasons that this program even started in this company way back in 2002, was the fact that people said, if that is what somebody from a government office is saying about somebody in our company, and this was quotation in the study, then we know that people are going in. And at the time when new countries were joining the European Union and things were happening according to European Union standards, and of course, this company knew more about the European standards than a country that joined the European Union 6 months ago. But you can't go in and say, we know more about this, so just listen to us. They are the government. They make the final decision.
It's the optics as well for that business that's sitting globally going, hang on a minute, we didn't get a good press here. What are we going to do? I mean, it's like you look for, when you're negotiating, you look for signals, don't you? You're trying to monitor signals to see how's it going and to avoid being surprised. But it sounds like, the commercial signals that we would normally, well, actually, that is a commercial signal, isn't it? How the optics, how you're perceived and what they say about you when you're not in the room.
Well, and even the things you say when you're in the room, one of the greatest tools that we use in this is what's called the PIN triangle. And PIN stands for 3 different things that happen in every negotiation. One is the position, one is the interests, and one is the needs. And you draw this with 2 overlapping triangles, which is why it's called the PIN triangle. Needs are the things you can't negotiate at all. What each party needs, they're not going to back down on. They're not going to say, oh, no, I guess I can get along without that. If you actually need something, it must be there. And the more needs that overlap between the 2 triangles, the better it is. Positions are at the top. They're like 2 little mountaintops. They don't overlap at all, because my position is my position and yours is yours, and they aren't there to be the same thing. So those 2 never overlap, and that means you can't negotiate those either. The only thing you can negotiate are interests. We're interested in getting this product into your country, and the country is interested because this is going to help our farmers, have more produce, or, be better during climate change, or whatever it's going to be. And if you don't find enough overlapping interests, then you're going to have real trouble, because you don't have a way otherwise, because it isn't, oh, we give you a $5 discount, or we deliver it 10 days earlier than the other one. There is none of that. And if neither side is willing to identify what their own interests are, and then put out the questions to make sure they're finding the shared interests, then it's going to be difficult to negotiate. And that's something that everyone listening today, and who has to ever negotiate anything, if you think about that, your position you don't negotiate, the needs you can't negotiate, all you can do is look for shared interests. And once you find those, then make sure that both sides get as many of their interests met as possible. That's how you'll have a good negotiation.
Wow, it's like dating. All right. Except perhaps with less explosive outcomes. Anyway, moving on. Okay, I want to talk about really mindset shifts. What would you say when you were talking to these scientists? I mean, in your case, it was scientists, but this could be whatever group of people. But these scientists are particularly evidence-driven. They're empiricists, really. They want to see that X leads to Y, and this is a process, and there's nice and repeatable. What is the biggest mindset shift you've ever had to teach this group of people so they could negotiate effectively?
Well, the problem is, anybody who believes that the left part of their brain is what's running their life, meaning all the data and the statistics and the expertise and all the nice things that all the people bring into the room, both the scientists and the government officials. They're coming in from the legal side of things, but of course they have all of their wonderful expertise as well. The problem is, what makes a negotiation not work is never the expertise. It's always the human part of it.
So
And the thing
humans,
I always
I've always
said,
said humans north it up for all of us. That's right. Go on.
yeah, no, and that's why it was always, when people said, but our dossier has 1,000 pages. It's obvious that we know what we're talking about. And the dossier was wonderful, and it had 1,000 pages. But we had one case study, for example, that we used, that some person from the government, if she was a lady, she was pregnant, And if it was a gentleman, his wife was pregnant, and there was a product for animal science that was a flea collar for dogs. And there was supposed to be a safety warning put on it that anybody who was pregnant should only be touching this wearing gloves because there could be problems with the fetus or with the baby when it's born.
Okay.
And when you do that, and the woman in the room is pregnant, even if you can't see that, and she starts going on about, well, you can't sell this if this is, if this is what you have to write about it, and nobody knows she's pregnant, nobody knows why, or if it's the husband of somebody who's pregnant.
Right.
It's
right.
the fear, it's the anxiety that's going on inside the person that has nothing to do with the wonderful statistics and data and all the nice things that we have on the table. It's the human side that we had this once that the person just said, no, we cannot approve this, and got up and walked out of the room.
All right.
In the role play. And of course, if those kinds of things happen, how do you, as a wonderful rational scientist, deal with that? And that was the reason we had the training, because you had to learn to deal with the human side. Yes, your dossier is perfect, but the people sitting across from you at the table probably are not.
All right. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Mhm.
I want to draw it back to the very reason we're here. This is the Portfolio Executive Podcast, and I want to talk really to those portfolio executives who will hopefully be watching this, and to those people who perceive themselves as wanting to be part of that portfolio executive group. If a company is hiring a portfolio executive who will face regulators and, of course, public stakeholders, what capabilities or even signals should they look for beyond just the technical expertise?
Well, again, if you learn some of the theoretical things like the pin triangle, for example, I've had so many people come back to me in the canteen of the company 5 years later and say, Rhonda, I couldn't remember everything from the 3 days, but we talked about the pin triangle before we went in, and it really, really helped.
Right.
If you understand what's really happening in negotiation, and if you really understand that it's never one size fits all, number one. We're not trying to cut up the pie or the cake into two pieces like 30-70 or 60-40 or whatever. We're trying to make the cake bigger. We're trying to make sure that what is going into this, that people are bringing in new ideas. Many people think negotiation is very cut and dry, and what you come in with at the beginning is the way it works. Negotiation is co-creation. Negotiation is everybody bringing the things in, and how do we put it together to make the cake bigger? How do we make sure that we take those shared interests from both sides and find a good way to make sure that those are all being met? And the problem with a lot of people that think of negotiation in the price discount, whatever thing, is you can just move up and down within what's called the ZOPA, the zone of possible outcomes. And that's not the case with this, because what you're trying to do is, if this doesn't work this way, how can things be adjusted? It's not more or less of something. It's taking what's already there and making it work for both sides. And that is the thing, I think, as a portfolio executive, people are going into a situation that they don't have control of. They're there for the first time. There's a background already. And when they have to negotiate with other people, they may not have all the input. Questions is the most important thing in a negotiation. Everybody will say, but I've got my position. Yes, but you have to ask. You don't get to the shared interest if you don't ask. And so anybody who's a portfolio executive should know that when you go in to negotiate anything, and even if it's just your contract for working with the company, the more questions you have and the more basis you have to make your arguments, the better off you are.
Oh,
Wow.
excellent, Rhonda. Excellent. Thank you.
I mean, Val, what have we learned here today?
Well, we've learned a whole new way of thinking about negotiation and what it really means, and getting the shared interests, and understanding the other person's position in order to move that dial, particularly if the dial's not going in your direction.
Well, look, it's been eye-opening for me. Well, I was going to say very briefly, would it be sensible that they could go to your website if people wanted to find out more about this and other topics? Rhonda, what would you say?
what I'll give you is my link tree, because my link tree always has various websites that I'm working on, various projects that I'm working on.
Right.
I'll give you the link to my link tree. People can go in, set up a call with me if they like, find out what other projects I'm currently working on. There's a lot happening in there, and it's always kept up to date. So no matter when you're watching this, not the day we just recorded it, but anytime in the future, go to my link tree. You'll know what's going on.
Okay, and that will be at the end inside the comments. Please do take a look at that. And I just thank you so much, Rhonda. You're a font of knowledge, and certainly have twisted my noodle, to use an expression, because I suppose you don't really realize just how much is at stake when you're in a situation where you've got nowhere else you can go, and you have to come to terms. There's no if, buts, or maybes. It has to be done. Valerie, would you take us home, please?
Well, I'd like to thank Rhonda very much for joining us today, and obviously Gareth for doing his thing and looking after us on the Portfolio Executive. And until the next time on this podcast, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Rhonda. And hopefully you guys keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and hopefully look after your mental health. Until next time, bye-bye. Wow. Thank you so much. That was excellent, Rhonda.
Was excellent, Rhonda.
I'm going to I listened to that again with obviously ears. It's been a while since I first heard that. Has anything changed other than AI playing a more prominent role?
No, because as I said, we started doing this in 2002, and over the 17 years, except for maybe there were different products or something that we were working with, the basic format stayed the same way for 17 years. These are really eternal things that we all need to think about. And the nice thing is, even with AI coming in the end, if there's going to be a person signing the contract, the agreement, whatever it is, all of these things will still play a role. The assistance we get from AI may be different than it was when we started this in 2002, but the way we go about it and the way we make sure that everybody's interests are being met still has to be happening, no matter what tools or extras we're using to get there in the end.
Right. So the basic premise is made the same, and so there's no reason why the approach should be different. I guess it does accelerated by the use of technology as ever. Yes. Valerie, before we sign off, are there any last comments from you?
Well, I have to say, for those of you listening, please go and look at Rhonda's link tree, because she has some great projects on the go. I mean, we could talk about AI for Good, the conference you're going to. We could talk about the fact that you've got a company in Estonia. A digital company. We could talk about lots of things. There's so much going on, Rhonda. You really are a treasure trove, my dear.
Well, the name I'm using for myself now is the Patrona of Possibilities. I'm just helping people see all the different possibilities there are in the world, taking advantage of some of them myself, like setting up the Midwise Alliance in Estonia and as an e-company, so anybody in the world can participate and have a way to be included. In July, the Geneva conference, AI for Good from the United Nations, I'll be attending for the third time in person, and just talking to all the wonderful people who are showing how our world is moving forward, but in the good sense. We hear a lot of things in the media, because the media is basically trained to go to the bad form of our minds to keep us safe and survive. But there's so much good going on in the world, and that's something I purport. And even the way you negotiate with people, if you do it in a way that's fair, and as I said, everybody's interests get met in the end, then you've not only increased the size of the cake, but you've also given people something to look forward to in the future and the next time you come, because a company and a government never talk just about one product. This goes on for years and years and years. So we're looking to go into the future, and now we're going into a totally new future, and really looking forward to see all the new things that are coming for us and all the help we're going to be getting that we haven't had before. Thank you both so much for the opportunity to be here today.
You may meet or already know a good friend of mine, Richard Scott, who speaks regularly at the AI for Good conferences as well. But yes, he was saying much the same thing. There is a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot to look forward to. To all of you out there, thank you for spending time with us. Please make sure you stay focused on the important things, which are often talking to other humans. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.